it shows us. Hi Priya, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Hi everyone.
Hi.
Hey, everyone.
Hi, I can see two Preetis.
Hello, Priya.
Hi.
Hi.
You're looking very nice in a Gujarati patola, I think you're wearing.
I think so.
Bandhani or bandhani? Looks like.
No, it's not a bandhani. It's
Patola.
it is a patola-ish type of thing.
Okay.
I think.
It's a patola.
Okay, good.
It's yeah, not one of Preeti's glamorous ones. This is like one of my glamorous work ones.
Thank you.
Yes.
We'll just wait for a couple of minutes and we'll begin.
Unmute.
25 acres of breathtaking beauty and absolute tranquility, Madhuban Resort and Spa exemplifies luxury that is soaked in tradition.
Madhuban is a home away from home. With his vast, enchanting gardens, Team Madhuban always awaits to give you service with a smile. Adding to that, the aromas of cuisines from around the world makes Madhuban a perfect wedding destination.
At Madhuban, an experienced team of wedding concierge and event planners are committed to weaving together moments that are certain to stay with you for a lifetime. Because moments as special as your wedding need a destination as special as Madhuban. Madhuban Resort and Spa, luxury soaked in tradition.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Neeti Mehta, Joint Secretary of FLO Ahmedabad Chapter. It's my pleasure to welcome FLO Ahmedabad Chapter Chairperson, Mrs. Taruna Patel, our esteemed guest, Ms. Priya Paul, past Chair Council, Executive Committee members, Chapter FLO members, and the FLO fraternity from around the country. I request all to keep your microphone on mute and do drop questions in the chat box so we can take in Q&A session. FLO, the women's wing of Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry, which is the apex body of industry and commerce in India. FLO has 17 chapters and over 8,000 member entrepreneurs and professionals pan-India. Our chairperson, Mrs. Taruna Patel, with an eye for perfection, shouldered the responsibility as CEO of MTC Engineering Limited and in 2009 of Madhuban Resort and Spa. Both are division of Elecon Group of Companies. Madhuban Resort and Spa is the only 5-star resort in Gujarat. Taruna Patel follows the fundamentals of empowering women leads to empowerment of family. She has started many specific drives for empowering women by recognizing the power of women in today's society. In today's event, we have Dr. Preeti Mehta, who will introduce our esteemed guest, Ms. Priya Paul, who is a dear friend of Dr. Preeti Mehta. Dr. Preeti Mehta is a senior anesthesiologist and has been in the field of healthcare and hospitals, which have pioneered many gastrointestinal procedures in Gujarat since many decades. Besides medicines, her interests lie in the arts, literature, and textiles. She has made a mark in the cultural scene of the city. She is also an occasional writer. Over to you, Preeti ji.
I heartily welcome today Ms. Priya Paul as our esteemed guest at the FLO Ahmedabad chapter. Priya is one of India's most prominent businesswomen and revered personalities in the hospitality industry. She is the dynamic powerhouse behind India's leading collection of contemporary luxury boutique hotels, The Park, which is a part of one of the country's oldest and most respected business houses, the 100-year-old 1.5 billion Apeejay Surrendra Group, having interests in tea, shipping, hotels, real estate, retail, and finance sectors. The Park Hotels itself is a 50-year-old company, the responsibility of which fell on the shoulders of Priya at the age of 21 with the untimely demise of her father. She chose to follow her heart instead of any rule book, and the outcome was a 400% expansion from 3 hotels to 22 today, and the number is still growing. With her astute direction, the Park Hotels have emerged as stylish, warm, and fun with a very high design quotient and a true reflection of her personality and passion. Priya Paul has a BA in economics from the Wellesley College. She also completed the Owner-President Management program at the Harvard Business School. She is an executive committee member of the Hotel Association of India and also served as its president. She is a founding member of the India Initiative of the World Travel and Tourism Council and has served as the chairperson. She is also a board member and co-founder of South Asia Women's Foundation and is on the India advisory boards of Harvard Business School and Breakthrough. She serves on a multitude of arts and philanthropic advisory boards. In the past, she was a trustee of Indira Gandhi National Center for the Arts and board member of the National Council of Science Museum. She has been awarded the Padma Shri and has been conferred with the insignia of Chevalier de Ordre National de Mérite, the National Order of Merit by the French government. For the 9th consecutive year, Fortune India magazine listed Priya as one of the 50 most powerful businesswomen in India. She has received numerous industry awards and accolades like the Aditya Ratna Award, Hall of Fame by Hotelier India, Excellence in Design Innovation by Condé Nast Traveler India, PhD Chamber Distinguished Women Entrepreneur Award, the Farhai Hall of Fame, and many more. A doting family person, she is an ardent collector of art and has contributed significantly in the fields of contemporary art too, and is connected to many social initiatives and activities. Over to Chairperson Taruna Patel and Neeti Mehta, the Secretary.
I invite Mrs. Taruna Patel to begin today's event with Ms. Priya Paul. Over to you, Taruna ji.
Thank you, Neeti, and thank you, Dr. Preeti, also for the wonderful invite to Priya Paul as our guest today. Good evening, Ms. Priya Paul, and good evening to all my fellow FLO fraternity pan-India. With immense pleasure as Chairperson FLO Ahmedabad Chapter, I welcome you, Priya, to our platform, and thank you for taking out your valuable time for today's event. And here may I present you with a small token of appreciation. A gift for you is a stay at our Madhuban Resort and Spa.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Taruna. That's a fabulous gift. And I look forward to getting there sometime. I saw the video and of course I've seen the website and it does look fantastic as a retreat.
Definitely, we expect you.
I'll reach there one of these days once flights are allowed. And thank you so much, Preeti, for organizing this and inviting me and your wonderful introduction. Thanks.
Thank you. So as we all know, my dear FLO members, that we at Ahmedabad Chapter have taken up the initiative of sustainable tourism, which is also our national initiative. And hospitality industry is a big part of tourism, as is the food industry. Here with us today, of course, as Preeti described, is an exceptional woman leader who at a very tender age took on the reins of running a boutique of hotels in the hospitality industry. Though not having the experience or working knowledge of hotel operations at the time, she still took the challenge head on as she had the determination and zeal to make it work. And truly she did make it work. Friends, let's meet Ms. Priya Paul, the chairperson of Apeejay Surrendra Park Hotels Limited. Welcome again.
Thank you again. Thank you.
So Priya, we'll begin our conversation with, like amongst all the many stories, this is the one that stands out. And even Preeti described it, that the most remarkable story of success in entrepreneurship is from the 3 hotels the group had when you took over. The number now stands at 22 hotels, up and running, and more in the pipeline. So you are also regarded as a creative powerhouse behind India's leading collection of contemporary luxury boutique hotels, the Park. So to begin with, I believe that the opportunities available in the post-COVID era are vast and very transformative in scope. And so the hospitality sector must display a higher purpose for survival, revival, and look at its business practices with new resource and regenerative lens. So can you share with us how you managed to cope the last few months and transform into the current scenario with your Park group of hotels?
Okay. Thank you. So Taruna, I mean, I don't know how many people are familiar with the hotels. I do see some familiar names on the screens, and so hi to everyone. And it's good to meet new people and a lot of new people who may not know the company and may not know the hotels at all. So actually, the 22 hotels are divided amongst 3 brands. So one is the Park Hotels, then we have the Park Collection. So the Park Hotels are city center, very designed, design specific, differentiated. Each hotel is very different. And then most of the big cities, the first one starting in Calcutta and then going on to everything from Visakhapatnam to Goa to Chennai, Hyderabad, Bangalore. And predominantly business, but very unique in the way they operate, and they use a lot of contemporary culture and to differentiate all the spaces as well as their activities. Then we developed something called the Park Collection, which is 20 to 40 room small hotels. We have about 2 of them open now, another 2. Well, one is opening and is opening during this lockdown phase, actually started operating 2 months ago. Oh. And a couple of others in the pipeline. And we have a new brand called Zone by the Park, which is more 4-star hotels, but with the design ethos of the park, but at a cheaper price. And, typically that is it. So that is the kind of the brand landscape that we have, and not easy getting there. But really to go back now to, kind of March, April, which is what your question is, how do you rejuvenate and how do you cope? So I think the lockdown in March was a huge shock, particularly for the hospitality industry across the country and across the world. And you have suddenly places that are operating 24/7, and they have a lot of food and beverage. They have activities happening day and night. We specialize in restaurants and bars and nightclubs and all our hotels. So suddenly everything was silent, and our teams that were used to working very hectic hours and working night and day had suddenly nothing to do, and we had to tell them all to go home. So for a hospitality kind of business, that's a it's like a shock. So I think so everybody went into crisis mode, and I think our teams first they had to actually deal with actually shutting down the hotel, sending people home. Obviously people couldn't travel. There were lots of other issues, humanitarian and otherwise. And as you know, Taruna, since you run a hotel, you can't close a hotel. You have to keep it running. And so it's a question of, which team stays, which one doesn't. And there was a whole gamut of issues from a hospitality point of view.
Yes.
So in this crisis mode, and to help us, kind of ideate and get into it, we immediately formed 4 task forces, which used people across the nation. Of course, our biggest savior has been Zoom. And so everyone was immediately on it. We're already a very, kind of large organization which has teams across the country. So we're already using a lot of video conferencing, but this was on another scale. So we did 4 task forces. One was on experiences and innovation. One was on people. The third was communications and marketing, both external and internal. And then the fourth was something that we called reimagine, reset, and restart. Okay. So all these task force had a combination of people, different levels in the organization, and with over, I would say, almost 100, 120 people in those teams to develop ideas. Well, first of all, immediately in the crisis about, communicating to your employees, your closures, to, contracts getting canceled. So there was still work going on, but everything was happening off the things. And also preparing the organization for when it would open and how would we open. No one knew in April how long this would go. We still don't know in many places. And so to make, plan A, plan B, plan, kind of A to Z, depending on the different scenarios that would open up. So I think that was the big task in March and April. And also in April, then suddenly you have a hotel, and people have to come to hotels and restaurants traditionally to experience everything. So how do you then innovate, and how do you then keep your brand alive, and how do you then take your hotel or restaurant to people, to their homes, to where they are and everything? So there was a lot of kind of communication effort that went on with all our customers, old and new. And then, different businesses that were kind of ramped up, such as food delivery or, home catering where it was allowed. Or one of the unique things that we started to do, because we are known for our nightlife, we started doing every Sunday or certainly every Sunday for one of the clubs we have is called Aqua, which is an outdoor pool space. And so every Sunday they have a kind of a 1 hour, like a well-known DJ playing. So they've had about 25 or 30 of those events. And those are heard, it's on SoundCloud, and anybody can SoundCloud and mixtape or something. And anyone can download them at leisure, and people wanted to listen to good music. And that was something that we found. There were concerts that we had that we streamed to people's rooms, to homes, just to keep the brand alive. So those were some of the things that we did. And and I think in terms of how the next few months or the next years looking at that, we're still, maybe do that in your next question as we go forward.
That's exactly what my next question is sustaining through this time. The sustainability is the key in hospitality. And like you said, you had to keep alive. Like other businesses, we could not shut it down. You have to maintain the hotel. So whenever it opens, you're ready. So again, to sustain that in hospitality and tourism industry post-COVID-19, because sustainability in hospitality is also a topic that has been there for decades. As tourism grows in popularity worldwide, hoteliers are tasked with how to ensure that their hospitality doesn't have a negative impact on the environment also. The industry has worked hard and made many positive strides over the last decade. However, recently with this discussion under great stress as a result of the coronavirus pandemic, it is no longer a choice, but a required element for any hospitality business planning for the future. Like you said, we don't know what's going to happen the next few months, a year and a half we're talking about. So the hoteliers have begun to question how much longer they'll be able to maintain sustainable co-friendly efforts, especially with things like pressure to return to single-use plastics for enhanced guest safety, the gloves, masks, PPE. How are you going to manage issues like this to avoid waste and sustain the industry in the industry at the same time?
So it's a very large question. So I'm going to try and talk about it a bit. So the first sustainability piece, and I'll just talk a little bit about what we're doing at the park, and then I'll talk to you about a little bit about what's happening, I think, in the industry and how we see it. Mm-hmm. So, hotels, of course, are mini cities. So there's always a conscious effort to look at resources in terms of energy, heat, light, power, and water, and as you say, all the plastics and the disposables, and how we contain that. So that's something that happens in most large hotels because it's like a city and you have to manage all those variables, and both from a cost point of view as well as from an environment point of view. About 10 years ago, our hotel in Hyderabad opened and was India's first LEED Gold certified hotel from the US LEED. And so we started like a formal way of looking at sustainability, I would say by 2007 or 8, while we were planning this hotel. And what we saw in terms of how resources were managed and how resources were consumed was quite interesting. So all our subsequent hotels are actually LEED India certified, getting into that certification. For the old hotel, it's very difficult to kind of retrofit that. But for all our new projects, we are looking at all those eco-conscious practices and building them in terms of how we, deal with our air conditioning or the recycling of water. Of course, water harvesting is a big issue and has become a big thing in India. So that is where we are at. We've been also at the forefront of the farm to fork eating movement, and a couple of our hotels host and our spaces, free spaces where farmers come and sell their products. So in many of them in Chennai and Delhi, we have weekly markets, number one. In fact, even in the lockdown, we've been trying to buy directly from the farmers because they had no other markets to really go, directly to sell their products. And we have done probably India's first farm to fork Indian restaurant, which is our restaurant Fire in the Park, New Delhi. And that is, I think it's about 80% completely sustainable, organic, known sources of food, whether it's meat or dairy or dal or whatever else. So that's been quite an interesting experiment. And I think one of the things that is very, very interesting during this COVID time, that's become a huge conversation about where's our food coming from, what are we consuming, and then this whole conversation with the farming community and the agriculture in general. And that's something that I actually believe passionate about. I've actually just joined an organization called Food Future India, which actually is going to be looking at how we look at production and consumption of food at a larger scale. But anyway, that's a big project. So that's one of my interests, and I think, but I think it's something that hospitality is now embracing. And if you're talking about immunity, you're talking about stuff like that, how are you building that? It's also from what you eat,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So that's one piece of the sustainability thing. I think as a consumer and as a hospitality industry and travel industry person, I think in fact, the best thing that's happened for sustainable tourism is the fact that there has been no tourism since March, April. And I think it's made everybody look at how we travel, why we travel, and I think we must travel, because I think that's the most learning experience. It can be done in a sustainable manner, but do I think, big cruise ships with 5,000 people are going to come back in a hurry? Maybe not. Okay, because that's not the thing. Or really, I also people will choose resorts and hotels, not just by their eco credentials, but to see how they're conscious and how they're, kind of managing their environment, and, how you experience the environment and how the hotel is behaving with its environment. So I think that's a very important question, and it's put, this crisis has put all that so much to focus. I mean, how we deal with nature, how we deal with climate change, and these issues have come to the forefront, and they are big issues. I mean, and no one person has the answer for these issues, but I think everyone realizes that there has to be something new coming forward. So therefore, this whole conversation about single-use plastic and everything, and hygiene and everything, there's a quid pro quo there sometimes. But people are inventive, people are creative, and there's a lot of technology out there. So maybe in the first few months, everything was disposable. You will see now new materials come that are more renewable, whether it's a mask or a PPE, you could maybe a washable one. So there are lots of new technologies. And I think when there's so much of demand, as we're seeing even for a vaccine, everybody gets their breast and brightest heads around to provide a solution. So I think that will happen in the next few months, because we are big consumers of these single-use plastics, and it'll be sad to see that end up in the oceans like we see before.
Okay, so actually you've answered a lot of my next questions answers, but still I would like to ask you, as a leader of large hospitality industry, and you already covered the impact of COVID-19 for the present, your plan for the future, but if there has been any losses due to the COVID-19, would you be able to recover from that? And in case you already recovered, because you have a bunch of hotels, so there's always balancing act that we do over there. But in case you do overcome that, are you ready for the boom? Because we also hear about the boom in the travel and hospitality industry, because everybody has been so cooped up in their homes. It is booming in some areas, but would you be ready with all these restrictions? And
So, this opening up has been very gentle and gradual, and I think the story is not over as yet, because there is, things are open, some things are open till 8 o'clock, it's not fully open. If there's going to be an outbreak, there'll be different things. I think the first thing in terms of actually a recovery and what action has to be taken, And, my opening remarks, I didn't say this, but actually the first thing, obviously, every organization, whether you have a home or an office or 5,000 people in your factory, the first thing is the hygiene and safety and managing that and training your people to do that. So, we at the park, and like every other person has, we identified some 100 or 125 contact points, did the whole hygiene, sanitation, protocols, and you have to constantly check and certify. And we have our own program called SHIELD, which stands for SHIELD some things, and which is the branded program that is run across all our hotels and restaurants and things like that. So that's very important. And I think the first task for anybody is actually to establish those, make people feel secure, and make them feel secure to come to your premises. So, I talked about what we're doing outside, but we also have to get people back in. And I have to say that our team has done an outstanding job, because in March, I think we had a 3% or 5% occupancy. In September, we've reached about 60%. Average, which is excellent, and some of the hotels have been doing 100% the last few days. And occupancy in the beginning has been everything, of course, from doctors to consultants who are stuck, or to bankers, and of course the quarantine people. Now from September onwards, it's such a mix. You're right, people are traveling, so it's not that they're only traveling to resorts, which are seeing a huge boom. They're also traveling to city hotels because they want to visit their friends and family. They might want to escape their own home. So that is also one of the issues, like, staycations, workcations, which you've heard about. People want to check in for a week and just work in peace and quiet and get, nice room service and a nice restaurant. In many states now, the gyms and the spas and swimming pools have opened. So you can have a city vacation, you can have a resort vacation. So I think the important thing for all of us is actually to create that demand. And that again means being out there, collaborating with, an airline. Like we have something with Indigo going on as a promotion. So everyone is trying and everyone's working together to build that demand. And that is really essential. We have all had losses, and I think the losses will take some time to overcome. It's not an easy task, and hospitality still is not back in the way that any of us would like. So even though we've done 60% occupancy, it's still, we are used to running occupancies of about 90%, and the rates are very, very low right now. For city hotels. Resorts are different.
Yes, I agree with that, because that's very slow compared to the city hotels. And you seem to have planned well anyway from your answers. So again, now coming back, Priya, you come from a family who's engaged in steel business, then you were in shipping, and also next into hospitality, tea, real estate, finance, logistics, and a whole lot of other businesses. So there's a lot of industries that you're involved with, and varieties of industries that you're involved with. Between your brother, Karan Paul, sister, Priti Paul, and yourself, there's a huge workload to manage. Yet, you all don't stop to blink and are always ready to take more challenges. Like you just explained how you coped with the COVID challenge from March onwards till now. How do you cope, even though you have tasted success at its best and still there is no slowdown? You are just raring to go. I see that in you. So what is it that...
No, I think, so my brother, sister, and myself own and run the businesses together. And I think we're very similar in age and we've grown up together. So there's a lot of kind of similarity in thought and synergy and comfort in the way we work together. And I think that's really important. Life is not all full of successes. I've been working for like 30 plus years. And I have to say the day I started working in hospitality with my father, that was the first day of ever that I worked. And the occupancy of the Park Delhi where I was 8 rooms, out of 224. So even in this beginning of this, I've seen I think the worst. And when this beginning of this, and I've also seen a couple of cycles, because we've been working for 30 years, you see many ups and downs. So I think I'm very kind of a balanced and calm person. So I don't let too much of success to go to my head, and vice versa. if it's so bad, which it has been for the past many months, it's not. I've seen worse in one sense. So, and I also know that, you know, from the worst things, it will only go up and it can build up. And of course, you have to work hard and you have to push, you know, everything. And it's not the, you know, it can be the end of the world, but you have to behave as if it's not and put your mind to it and, you know, kind of overcome some of these challenges. So I think that's very important. So it's not always success. It's always, you know, when you're seeing kind of a family business, or you may be seeing a snapshot, there's a lot of hard work and a lot of ups and downs that's gone in it, and it is in any business or and in any family business. So we've seen the best of times and the worst of times, to paraphrase. And I think one of the great things about the lockdown is it's given us a lot of time to not travel, be together, enjoy ourselves, whether we're doing it on family Zoom or hanging out with whichever family members we've been with. And so I think as a busy working person, there's been a lovely breathing space and kind of a relook at your kind of work-life balance and, you know, how you want to manage your time or do things differently. So I think, you know, we really, we managed to have a lot of fun too.
Yeah, because, you know, as a pioneer in the Indian hospitality industry, to a large extent, you are also an influencer and have shaped the industry to grow into a vision that you had foreseen. You know, there was something new that you had tried in the Indian hotel industry. So as you just mentioned, for the past few months, it has given you a chance to probably look into you know, what to do next in this was the gestation period, and everybody else has been at a standstill. What would you be doing if you are looking for a new site now? You know, despite this, I know like you are going to be challenged and you're going to be looking for new locations for a new site. My question would be, you know, you have a standard checklist in your mind what you want as a return on investment from your new businesses. Because you are very creative and you have unique aesthetic sense. So when you're selecting your sites, does that weigh more, you know, does that play more important of a role in this important decision while you're making this?
No, return on investment is more of a important, no, or creativity.
Is the site, when you're selecting the site, do you pay more important to the creative in you that you have? Because, you know, sometimes we go with the heart and not with, like, you'd be thinking more on the return of interest.
Yeah, no, you know, it's a combination of things. And I think some, you know, look, you know, it has to make business sense at one level. But on one level, you also have, you know, kind of passion projects that you do. So, you know, if I'm looking at it from, you know, if my CFO looks at it and he will look at it and we, you know, in fact, we've run all these numbers. We actually look at return on capital employed. And we do about a 13 to 15% on it when we look at it. And of course, we look at the IRRs of the internal rate of return. So those are the two parameters we look. It's not the only thing we look at. Obviously, when you're looking and building up a brand, supposing you don't have a hotel in Bombay, you might, and which I don't have, I only have a managed property. I have one hotel. So you're looking at a different side and you want to be in that, and there are different considerations. Others, you have to look at what is the carrying capacity of that city, where do you want to be? Sometimes some deals make sense, some they don't. And then you find things that are kind of passion projects. And that's why, you know, I talked about the park collection, which I've kind of created. And that is really where my passion projects are, which are the things that we may make money, we may not make money, but they're interesting and interesting developments. So we have 2 properties in Goa, which do very well. They're 30-room properties, managed properties. I took a palace on lease in Chettinad, you know, for a long-term lease. I've only done one part of it, which is opened as a restaurant. And now we move into renovation for the whole palace, you know, doing just about 20 rooms. But for me, it's conservation, it's beauty, it's a unique destination. So it makes it more interesting. And of course, you know, it will eventually do well. But we have to do that conservation, and that is a very time consuming and can be expensive. So we have just finished the conservation and the kind of the interior decoration of a 6-room, it was an inn, it was called the Denmark Tavern from 1786. It was probably India's first hotel, and that's just on the banks of the Hooghly, just north of Calcutta. So it's a beautiful location where, you know, if you have, it's only 6 suites and it's right on the water. So it had already opened a year ago with a restaurant, which does very well. And just pre-lockdown, we opened 2 suites. We've opened another 2, and we've got another 2 opening in November. So that work has been going on, and it's quite beautiful. And, you know, so it's okay, fine, 6 rooms. Am I going to make, it's not going to be the same as the Park Calcutta, but it's a fun thing to do. So, so it's a combination of things, and then that gives me my creative output.
Yeah, exactly. That's what my question was, because sometimes, you know, you have some ideas in your mind and you want to put it into action. Sometimes it doesn't, you know, the example is right where I'm sitting, Madhuban Resort and Spa. It's in a place where you don't think anybody would visit, and you spend 100 crore on a property where you don't even know what the business is going to be. But it was passion, so I was connecting those two.
It's true. I mean, and you have to, and you know, your property looks beautiful. So, you know, and it takes a lot of passion to build a project. And you know, from me, from my point of view, I like each hotel to be different and have a very unique kind of look and feel, whether it's the craft or you know, kind of looking at contemporary Indian crafts and contemporizing them, you know, working with contemporary artists as well as traditional artists. So for me, that part of the conversation is also very important. So even though our hotels are very modern, they'll always have an element of the local and of something that we've actually created newly.
Yes. So Priya, that takes care of you know, the hotel part. Now comes here. Where I have read that the vibrancy in the ambience and the attitude of your staff at all your hotels, you know, is amazing. I know that you have been instrumental in making this change in how they deal with the customers. I believe you also played a very pivotal role with your hands-on attitude and penchant for working with teams as your crucial qualities. So you also mentioned in your interviews that no one is afraid to get in and get their hands dirty. And that really has given you and them also the leeway to do what you wanted to do. And moreover, I think you have also achieved your lifetime goal, which is to work hard and enjoy yourself. So what is the one thing that you love to do most as a hotelier?
Okay. So, it's a complicated question. I think that work hard and play hard is something that the whole family believes in. And I think that's something that even as a family, as our vision, we are very clear, my brother, sister, and myself, that we're in the business because we enjoy doing it. So the moment it doesn't become enjoyable, then that's not, you know, we're lucky enough that we can manage our lives. So the business has to give us kind of the enjoyment of running it. The work hard, play hard is definitely something that we've all inherited from my father. And my father and mother, my mother also worked, and she chaired our company for 15 years. And I think she was quite active in FICCI FLO also. I think
at the Delhi chapter? At Delhi chapter, your mother is a FICCI FLO?
I think she was an active member. I don't know whether she took a position or something, but I think Usha Agarwal is on it. She might know. No.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So, so you know, that we've seen my parents also working completely hands-on and involved in the management, and it's been a family business which everyone's been involved in. So that's something that actually endures for all our family members. We're not scared of that. We have a lot of professional management, and each business is actually handled by professional CEOs, and that's something for, you know, for over 30 years we've had them. But there is family oversight. Eventually it is our money, and so whereas everybody is empowered and makes a lot of decisions, it's important that, you know, we know our business as well and we're involved in it. But on the day-to-day, let's say the day-to-day management of the hotels is done by our managing director, Vijay Diwan, and the whole team. It's not me kind of minutely looking at everything.
Okay.
Okay. I do, but they do it.
So you told me that about the...
So what is the one thing I most love to do is a very difficult question for me to answer, because I like doing many things. And one thing I like to do in hospitality, or one thing in general?
No, I had asked about hospitality, and the next one is going to be in general, which is your traveling part. So you can answer the hospitality one first.
No, I'm going to do it kind of like weirdly together. So the thing is, I think I'm lucky that I was assigned the hospitality industry by my father, and I remained here because he died. So there was, I had to take over the after he passed away within about less than 2 years of me joining the business. But I think for me, it's been a great fit because number one, I like people and I like meeting people, and I like the whole food and beverage part of it and the fun part of it, and I'm fine with it. And I turned out to be more creative than I thought I would be. I thought I'd be like a kind of business person, and I always knew I was going to get into business. But I discovered a more creative side to me when I started doing the design of the hotels and working with designers and pushing things here and there, and looking at design and art in all its aspects, and and fashion and things like that. So I think it was a good kind of fit for me. So for me to say, okay, fine, there's one thing, it's difficult. Yeah. But I mean, for me, it would maybe the food angle, because I love that, and I love I love kind of experimenting, as well as creating restaurants and creating new spaces with the chefs. So maybe if I hadn't I say to many people, okay, fine, I would open my own restaurant, but I'm not sure if I would do that. It's better if I just create.
Actually, that was my one of my questions, that you have that creative side, and because I'm also from the hospitality industry, and as you just saw, I share the same passion in the cuisine that you just talked about, that you're interested in that. And I think I also read that cuisine with their histories. I think you go back to that also.
Yeah, so that's that's why I'm interested in the Farm to Fork. That's why I'm interested in this this foundation I've just joined, which is about looking at food, food on a larger scale. Because that's something I have been kind of reading about all this stuff since I was 16, 17. Okay, so it's something that you look at recipes, you look at ingredients, you look at how did this come to this country, how did it come to my city, whatever. There's so many interesting things. I mean, now everything moves very, very fast because of Instagram and things like that. But 15, I mean, that was like 30, 40 years ago.
Yeah.
It was very different. You have to read. I mean, you have to read a lot still to find out more.
But Priya, do you ever go into the chef's kitchen and experiment on those recipes? That was the question in my mind, that you have your own hotel, the own kitchens, you can go do whatever you want, you have all the help. So do you experiment with recipes because you have that creative mind? And
yes, of course I do, and
present it to your guests also. That's what.
Yeah. So I'm constantly looking at recipes and ideas and things like that, and so are they. And we ideate and talk a lot with the chefs, and there are many times where we'll come and say, okay, fine, try this, or maybe a recipe that I've seen in a magazine, I'll tear it out and send it to them, or whatever. Now WhatsApp it. So I have many of those collaborations. When we do menus for restaurants, I'm completely involved, particularly the first, if it's a brand new launch. I mean, once we set the tone, and if there's a new look happening for a restaurant, I will definitely be involved in it. And then working with the chefs. Of course, the last many years have been so busy, so I was not really going into the kitchen. Obviously, the lockdown has brought out my cooking abilities again. And our son is 15 years old and is a very passionate cook and a very creative cook, and he's a vegetarian, or has been always. So we were just laughing the other day, and between him and me, I think we made some 55 or 56 new dishes.
Wow.
In the
I
house.
hope some of them are going to go on the menu.
No, I doubt it. They're more like home cooking kind of things, but so it's like fun, new things. I mean, it could be anything from a Buddha bowl to something else, but it was just experimenting and doing stuff together because you want to create new things. And certainly I got back into the kitchen with some more complex recipes. So it was good. It was good. It's given me a lot of,
So
a lot of satisfaction.
Do you have any specialty restaurants at any of your hotels, the park hotels, where you serve anything?
Yeah. So actually, as I mentioned, the innovation that the park did, particularly from the 90s onwards, was to actually create new restaurants and bars. And specialty restaurants are definitely part of it. So one of the strong specialities, apart from, of course, Indian, and there are a variety of Indian restaurants. And I talked about the Farm to Fork in Delhi. That's called Fire. Then one of the specialities that we really are very strong on is Thai and Oriental. So we have a very successful restaurant in Calcutta called Zen. We have one in Chennai called Lotus, also very well regarded. When we opened our Hyderabad hotel, we did a lot of research in Telangana as well as Hyderabadi food. And the restaurant that we have there called Ash, designed by Tarun Telyani, so that's how our collaborations work. So you use a designer, you have somebody else on the food side, and create something that is has an interesting voice. So Tarun designed the whole restaurant, which is beautiful. And then, of course, one of our other specialities has been Italian. We worked with a lot of Italian chefs. Many of our chefs go to Italy to train, and we believe in that because we like doing proper Italian food as well as newfangled Italian food. So Italian has been quite a strong area. Yeah.
And my last question before we go to Q&A, I know that you're extremely well traveled, and one of your passions is trekking, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
So can you share with us some of the exotic places that you may have visited, traveled in trekking or otherwise? And how do you rate overall the Indian hospitality industry, the hotels that you may be, as a guest, not...
Sure. So the other reason why this industry suits me is because I love traveling and exploring new places. And even in my own city, or even if I will come to Ahmedabad, I would go back to that, that heritage area, that old area where you walk around. And I like eating in different weird places also. So I'm quite an experimental kind of thing. But anyway, trekking, my first trek was in Bhutan. And I go with it's actually normally a group of women. The last trek I went to had a group of men, but it works out because of the time commitments, about once in 2 years, once in 2.5 years. So I think the most beautiful trek that I've been to in a very is Ladakh. So that was spectacular. Bhutan has been great, and also Uttarakhand, where I've been to many treks. The last one was to Gangotri and Tapovan, which is the valley, the meadows above, where the rishis used to meditate. But when you start going also on trekking, you also understand what sustainability and tourism is all about, and how we are destroying the water and the chips packets all over, and the no wastage. Whole. When the more you go up and up, you just realize what all this beauty is getting destroyed. And that's there's a friend of mine who runs a sustainable tourism organization of India, and they've been trying to talk about all these issues for many years because but of course it's now coming to again refocus at the ministerial level as well as the thing. So that's very beautiful. How I rate Indian hospitality, I think we've got some great products, and particularly sometimes in the smaller cities and resorts, very unique things. I think one of the most amazing destinations is Hampi, actually, if I would say. One of the unique destinations in India, which is less traveled to. And hotels are good. I think we have a good hospitality industry. Wish there were a few less kind of barriers in terms of licensing and the way hotels get permissions. But otherwise, I think this is an industry that has a lot of potential. It's something that even though we're going through a really, really severe downturn, and industry will come back in the next maybe 2 years. But we are growing fast. We don't have very many let's say, certified and registered hotels. So I think there will be more of a move towards branded hotels. And there are so many brands, both Indian as well as international, already in here. So I think there's a lot of growth.
Yeah.
We may be having 15 million incoming tourists, which none of them have happened, but we have almost 400 million plus Indians who travel across the country at all levels, whether they're going by bus or they're going by a private jet. So there is room for a lot of growth, and people are traveling. Airline travel is increasing. So I think it's an industry that has a lot of potential for the future too.
Yeah. Do you think the Dekho Apna Desh initiative, led by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, to travel 15 places outside of your state within the next 3 years by 2022, will have a positive impact on Indians traveling within India? The tourism in India.
Yeah, I think, but anyway, for the short term, we have no other option. But
Yes.
but I think there's a lot of conversation happening with the Ministry of Tourism and the Ministry of Finance that, okay, fine, if you want to also kickstart the economy and you want to kickstart tourism, and you want to, so how do you create demand, is to actually give maybe some tax breaks for people who are, doing this 15 things. So maybe they get some certificate, or they do 5 and they get some tax rebate or something like that. So that's the conversation that's happening at multiple levels, and let's see what happens with that. So, that is an incentive for people to then travel. Yeah.
So great conversing with you,
Thank you.
Priya, and I look forward to visiting us in Madhuban and Gujarat actually. And at Madhuban, we are located in Anand. And maybe we can pick up a few pointers from you. We are just a one-off resort because our main business is engineering. This was, like I mentioned, it was a passion of my husband, which I said is going to, be not a success, which we are experiencing now. I mean, we are experiencing success until COVID came, and it was unheard of having a 5-star resort in a godforsaken area. But it has worked. So sometimes passion does work. And I invite Niti, any question and answer you may want to take on, please, for Priya.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks so much, Taruna. Pleasure talking.
Thank you.
Ms. Priya, there's a question from Riva Goyal. What holds chain hotels to spread their wings in Gujarat?
Well, initially, I mean, from the 5-star hotel point of view, I think everybody wanted a full service hotel and, liquor license. I know I've seen many projects in Ahmedabad which didn't work out. Sometimes it's really the investment cost of it. When we looked at some properties, we've looked also at some management contracts, but I think you have some very interesting locations. So it's quite a good place. I think a lot of the big chains are in Ahmedabad already.
Yes, they are coming. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So I think that's
one
one
mentioned is the liquor license. That's what's
Yeah,
missing.
and because you want people to have a complete experience. Like for us, as I said, the bars and the restaurant is a part of it. I mean, you've seen even in the lockdown, whether it's hotels or restaurants, everyone has wanted the alcohol license. It doesn't mean that everyone is drinking, but it just makes the whole kind of experience complete. Supposing you're a group of 5, 2 want to drink, 3 want, and then everyone's then staying at home then. So I think that is an issue in Ahmedabad a bit. But I think you have some very nice hotels already there. Yeah.
Thank you.
And your question, I can see Riva saying in Gujarat as a whole.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe the opportunities have not come in that way. Yeah.
So
But you have that and you have, okay, fine. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, there's a soft.
But Riva, I'm happy to look at any project if you have any in mind.
So there's a soft winky comment, 601 Chef Willy. You want to?
So that's a very successful restaurant we opened in Chennai by Chef Willy, who became an institution, and he was from New Zealand, and took kind of Chennai by storm. And I think that was in 2000 or 2001.
Yeah.
Still a very successful restaurant, even though others have opened in between. But people have come back because the food has been consistent and good. So Jyoti, I think, must be living in Chennai. I think you want to put their mics on or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
Jyoti is trying to speak, but she's on silent.
Jyoti, you can unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now we can.
Yes, yes, Priya. I'm from Chennai. I've been for all your parties, and they're one of the most
You look
memorable
familiar.
evenings of my life. And you had a fabulous team, Sarah, and everybody. We had such a
Yes.
fabulous time. The park has been part of my 20s and growing up, and I can never forget Chef Willie and Sarah and the sit-down dinners that you hosted and lovely evenings.
Thank you. I hope you're
Big
still going to
fan.
the park.
I totally love that place.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Priya, I would like to know what is your favorite dish from 601 Chef Willie?
Well, Chef Willie's now left us. But
Okay.
one of the things, I mean, he moved on to do some other adventurous things. And I think he's still in Chennai, Jyoti, no?
Yes, he is.
Yeah, he's still there. So he went on to run a couple of things. But I think one of the things that we introduced, which was not really, I would say, Chef Willie, it was actually my Italian chef who came from London.
Okay.
Antonio Carluccio, you may have heard of him. Carluccio was a very famous Italian chef and a very dear friend. So he came and introduced these fantastic thin crust pizzas. So for me, that is something that has endured. And, my family is great pizza people and, very, very great pizza people. So they're very into pizza. So we still are. And those are very good pizzas.
And one more.
They're delicious. They're delicious.
Yeah, see, endorsed by Jyoti.
And your favorite place in Park, Calcutta? A particular, any cozy space?
My office in Calcutta, which is the nicest office I have. And I hardly don't go to that office. It's a nice, peaceful little office. And no, I like the office there. And of course, what is the other place I would like there? I actually love my office there, which is very.
Or you can share any
space in Park
space
Calcutta. And then
of your hotel.
I like Tantra, which is our nightclub.
Okay, all right.
Tantra, I really love it, and it's a fun space, and it's great music. I've had some really fun nights there.
Okay, so I'll ask everyone to take a note and do visit that.
And
Okay.
the moment the lockdown is started opening in Calcutta, two of our nightclubs are already up, and everyone's out there.
Oh,
Bars. Actually, bars. They're running as bars now with music.
sounds fun then.
Yeah.
Okay. I think so. We are done with the questions. I'll ask Ratna Jani to give the vote of thanks.
Thank you so much, Priya, for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Ratna is there.
She's there. Yeah, she's there.
Yes, thank you, Neeti. Hello, everyone. A very good evening to our distinguished guests, Ms. Priya Paul and my dear Flo family. Who knows hospitality better than a woman? Ms. Paul has proved that unquestionably. It was engaging and equally inspiring to listen to the journey of an enterprising woman who started off working as marketing manager under her father to receiving the 4th highest civilian honor, Padma Shri, amongst many more. The hospitality industry has emerged as one of the key drivers of growth among service sector in India, to work tirelessly towards building a brand that is synonymous with her unique creative energy and going on to become the most revered personality in the industry speaks a lot about her and her leadership qualities. Thank you for sharing your thoughts and experiences with us, Ms. Paul. We are honored to have you with us today in this virtual session. I would also like to thank our sponsors, Madhuban Resorts and Spa, Phoenix Simplified, Satyanarayan Jadia and Sons, and Sanket India Anand. My thanks to IT partners EITL for providing digital enterprise. A big thank you to our design and print partner, Akash Printing and Stationery, and our PR agency, Delta Crest Media. I would specially thank our chairperson, Taruna ji, for bringing in informative and interesting sessions one after the other to Ahmedabad chapter. Last but not the least, my thanks to all our flow members across different chapters and numerous YouTubers who have joined us today. I wish you all have a great and happy weekend. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you once again from my side. It's really lovely to meet you all virtually. Taruna, Preeti, Neeta, Rati, and Ratna, sorry. Thank you so much for having me. It's really, really been wonderful.
Thank you so
All
much.
of you women are doing fantastic stuff. So keep going on and conquering the world.
Thank
No,
you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank you. It's
empowered
been
us
our
more.
pleasure.
Thank you, Priya.
Thank you
Bye,
so much.
Priya. Good
Bye,
to see
Usha.
you.
I know.
Bye. Good to see you.
Thank you again.
Bye, Sinta. Bye.
This is how we meet now. What to do?
I know. Usha is my first cousin.
Hello.
Bye.
Hi.
And Simta is my niece on it. So very nice to see them both actually on it. So.
Yeah, it was really nice to hear from you. I mean,
Thanks, Simta.
hear you talk.
Everyone be safe, be well. And I'm sure I have to take you up, Taruna, on that wonderful
Absolutely.
gift. So the sooner I think I can come back. Well, Ahmedabad is always nice in the winter.
Yeah, our pleasure. We'll be waiting for you with open arms.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Thanks again, Preeti.
Thank
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye,
Bye.
Priya. Thank you so much for accepting the invitation.
Oh, no, pleasure. Bye.
Thank you, Preeti. That was